What if Tank Davis, who can punch, who is a hell of a fighter, who is the top 10 pound-for-pound fighter, what if he lands a punch on this bigger guy's chin, right, who's not a professional fighter? What happens?
They do it for real. Tank is highly capable of taking Jake Paul out. So the exhibitions that I like to see are ones that either I can mythically look at and say, wow, well, if he would have did that back when he was 10 years younger or 8 years or 12 years ago, he would have beat him. You understand me? Because we know boxing.
If he hits you because he's so accurate, he's going to drop you or could put you to sleep. But like not necessarily power punch. Like Edwin De Los Santos is a hard hitter. He would even have a hard time with rollies. I'm not even kidding.
Boxing legends weigh in on why they believe Gervonta Tank Davis would dismantle Jake Paul within 3 rounds. Analyst Gareth A. Davis highlights how Tank remained composed during the press conference, barely responding to Jake Paul's taunts about his height. According to Gareth, Tank appeared reserved almost as if he wasn't entirely invested in the build-up, but once the first bell rings, he predicts an explosive performance. He believes Tank's speed and precise combinations will overwhelm Jake quickly, silencing all doubts in dramatic fashion.
Went about the presser.
He reminded me of a northern football fan being dragged to a shopping centre on a Saturday afternoon rather than being allowed to go to his favourite Liverpool seat. Relate to that, won't you?
Yeah.
It was almost like he'd been shackled and dragged there against his will. Even when they faced off, it was as if Jake Paul had a bad smell about him or something. He didn't want to get near Jake Paul. He didn't want to... Just going to plug this in as well. I just realised it's not plugged in. It's almost as if he didn't want to indulge anyone at all. Like he'd signed up against his will, and then like he'd been signed up against his will. The agents and his manager and his handler had dragged him there without briefing him on what was going on and where it would be and what time it would take place. And there was this oaf in his mind standing there in front of him, this big oaf who kept posturing, and he just didn't do anything to him. I wondered at one point whether he was going to burst out with a combination of punches or something and just drop Jake Paul, who was being, measuring him up and going down to his height, and it was all very peculiar in my view. Like he really wasn't taking it seriously.
Ryan Garcia doesn't mince words when discussing the Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis fight. He calls the matchup a complete insult to boxing, emphasizing the clear mismatch in size and weight. For Ryan, this isn't a legitimate contest, it's a publicity stunt designed for views, not respect. He argues that boxing should be about legacy, skill, and fairness, not viral moments or influencer hype. Watching a smaller, elite fighter like Tank take on a naturally bigger opponent like Jake feels wrong to him, especially when marketed as competitive. Garcia warns that events like this send the wrong message to upcoming fighters. That clout and money outweigh discipline and honor. For him, this fight undermines the sport he's committed his life to, reducing it to a spectacle rather than a noble craft.
Mainly Jake's, and we're not falling for the Disney Channel bit no more. We're not falling for you're not a fighter no more. We're not falling for that. You're ranked as a cruiserweight and you're out here trying to fight a lightweight. And then on top of it, you were just talking about fighting Anthony Joshua. That doesn't make no sense. And, I just felt like it was a disgrace to boxing, and kind of it was not a good move by Jake Paul. I understand people saying, Gervonta got to go get his money, blah, blah, blah. But, we're not talking about that shit. We're talking about the sport, bro. We're not talking about, you got to get that money, bro. Yeah, but everybody's open to criticism. That's the whole point of this media shit. Right. That's why they talk about basketball players. They don't talk about, LeBron's making too much. Nobody cares, bro. If LeBron's missing the shot, he's missing the fucking shot. So at the end of the day, bro, I just thought it was a disgrace to the sport. Because on one end, you got the casuals, right? The casuals don't see the weight difference. They see Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. Yeah. And if Gervonta Davis doesn't fuck up Jake Paul, they're going to think Jake Paul is some pound for pound champion type of fighter. Yeah. And to me, that's just it's tricking the public, and it's kind of bullshit, bro, at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, if Gervonta was Jake Paul's size, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. There probably wouldn't even be a fight.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So I just think that it's a disgrace to boxing.
Well, we got to play devil's advocate because people were saying, well, Ryan, you called out Jake Paul before too, so how would you say that? What do you have to say to the people that were saying that?
Well, I'm way bigger than Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis is 5'4", and his last fight was at 133. My last fight was 147. I walk around 170. So, I mean, 170 to 190, whatever, however big is not too much difference. But you got Gervonta Davis, he's actually really small. Like when I fought him, he's small.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a very unfair fight. Nobody was complaining when Jake Paul was fighting Julio Cesar Chavez.
Right.
Nobody was complaining when he's fighting Anthony Joshua. And I still think Jake Paul's a cool dude. But shit, he's calling me out on my shit. I'm gonna call him out on his shit, bro. That's a fucking disgrace of a fight.
Yeah.
You know it. Just like the Mike Tyson low key was a disgrace. But we accepted it. But he was 60 years old. I mean,
right.
What the we talking about
60.
here?
That's crazy.
Veteran boxer Sean Porter sees the fight as a sign of boxing's shifting priorities. In his eyes, Gervonta Davis choosing to face Jake Paul reflects a growing trend where fighters pursue quick money over long-term greatness. Porter recalls a time when legends risked everything to fight the best, aiming to etch their names into history. Now, he observes, many boxers chase social media fame, sponsorships, and short-term gain, while he respects Tank's immense talent. He believes it's being wasted on novelty fights rather than defining matchups. Porter's criticism goes beyond one fighter. He's calling out an entire era, where financial incentives are replacing the drive for legacy, slowly eroding boxing's soul.
But why are you doing that? How do you sort of see this scenario now for him?
Yeah, I don't really know how to feel about it, what to really say about it. I've only been asked this when it's been presented to me. That's when I think about it. And I can't really come up with a good answer for it. In a lot of ways, it doesn't make sense to me. Of course, we know the size differential and the list goes on from there. I don't know, man. I think we're entering a generation now, or a phase now where fighters, I don't know if it's fighters, I don't know if he doesn't care about the legacy, or if he feels like this fight doesn't matter, I'll get back to the legacy. I just don't know. This is truly it's not a legacy fight, but of course it is a generational money fight, so.
Some boxing analysts believe the root of the problem isn't just the fighters, it's the audience. They argue that modern fans fuel the circus by prioritizing drama over skill, while true technical battles between elite boxers often get overlooked. Influencer fights dominate headlines. Social media's short attention span has shifted the sport's focus from substance to spectacle. These analysts insist that Jake Paul isn't the issue on his own, he's a product of an audience that rewards chaos more than craft, as long as fans flock to trash talk and viral moments. Serious fighters lose the motivation to risk it all for legacy. They warn that this fan-driven shift is blurring the line between professional boxing and entertainment acts. Champions fight for titles, influencers fight for clicks, and the current market rewards the latter.
Thing has evolved to where it's at. I'll expand on that. For one, you have good fights where I'm not talking about these type of fights, crossover type of fight, former Disney guy, influencer stuff, not. And Jake Paul has really promoted himself and acquitted himself to the point where he's kind of a boxer. Now, he hasn't fought the top names, I get it, blah, blah, blah. But he's doing his thing. He's training like a boxer. He's not like taking it lightly, like streaming and then working on his YouTube more than he's working on his boxing. It is what it is, right? But beyond that, let's keep it going. I told you I'm about to really get unpacked. Subscribe to the channel. The reality is, the reason why I'm saying I blame you, the fans, is because we've had some very good fights, like David Benavidez, Caleb Plant, whatever. I'm talking in the last 5-10 years, right? Very good fights, all boxing. So not talking influencer or any type of crossover fight, right? Good fights. And then you got boxing fans in a niche sport who didn't further the exposure by advertising or buying the fight, mostly buying the fight with piracy and whatnot. So now we're at a point in this society where these companies, they're like, all right, they see the piracy is a problem. Now they're looking for sure shot, must win type of scenarios. That's why we're getting these fights that some people, purists and diehards, are calling wonky fights. You know what I mean? It is your fault.
A key concern raised by boxing professionals is the stark size difference between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. Jake naturally walks around at cruiserweight, while Tank's domain is lightweight. Analysts argue that even with Tank's superior skill, the laws of physics still apply. Height, reach, and power can't be ignored. They caution that matching a smaller, faster fighter like Tank against a larger, more physically imposing Jake could be not only unfair, but dangerous. Jake has proven he can absorb punches from bigger opponents and keep coming forward. Tank, despite his knockout power, would need to take serious risks to close the distance. Critics believe such a matchup goes against the very standards of sanctioned boxing. While Tank may hold the edge in speed and talent, the physical imbalance makes this fight controversial, yet another example of entertainment, overshadowing athletic integrity.
How do I even start to break down a Tank Davis versus Jake Paul fight? Tank, a massively powerful fighter at 135 pounds, but his punch output is among the lowest in the sport. Jake has a pretty decent punch output for a guy that's 200 pounds. He hits hard in his own right, but doesn't have the skill and capabilities anywhere close, or the feet, or the hand speed, or the eyes anywhere close to Tank Davis, but has a power that Tank Davis has probably never felt, but just because Jake is naturally 70 pounds bigger than him, right? So 10 rounds, 3 minutes, who starts to show the wear and tear first? I know if Tank touches him on the jaw, it's probably not going to feel like roses, regardless if he's 135 or 150 or whatever he steps in that night. He's still a Tank and has still put guys down as he's gone up in weight, but Jake is just so much bigger. How much will the power that Tank has at the lower weight classes affect